light, there is light.
Starting right in January and in February, we talked about identifying business opportunities in Ghana, and here we are in March to look at another thing which is going to stimulate you so that you can start a business, start something, or even identify an opportunity that you would want to run with. This is your most stimulating entrepreneurship clinic, where we treat your ideas to some very successful tips. And so we are saying that stay tuned with us. And my name is Mavis Nakole Ayi. This is brought to you by the Department for Development and Social Services of the Presbyterian Church of Ghana in collaboration with PCG TV. In Thy Light, there is light. We are back shortly to continue the discussion. So much for staying glued to the channel PCG TV. In Thy Light, there is light. And this is the March edition of the Entrepreneurship Clinic, where we talk about a lot when it comes to ideas generation, when it comes to how you can start your businesses, when it even comes to the resources that you will need to get started, and how you can even maintain the momentum so that you don't lose track in the course of action. And it is brought to you by Development and Social Services Department of the Presbyterian Church of Ghana. We are sponsored by the Salem Water and Salem range of products, where we have the cereal mix, we have the body lotion, we have the hair food, and all of those. And so just get closer to any of the Presbyterian institutions and you get yourself one of those products as well. And in this edition, we are going to talk about from ideas to startups. What do you need to know? When do you think your idea is valid enough to start a business? How do you even assess whether this is an idea that is business oriented, or it is just one of those thoughts? I mean, your hormones are just making it up. We get to that as well. And we have very seasoned personnel in the studio here to have the conversation with us. And so do well to share your comments. If you have questions, you can just drop them at our interactive social media platforms on YouTube, on Facebook. We are there, PCG TV, and then also Pressed Ghana. You can join us there, sharing your experiences with us and with all of the questions that you also have. Let me come to my guest in the persons of Professor Vera Lasse Fiado. I didn't want to mention the other one, but I did. And then also we have Madam Ansia Ohini Main, who is with the Ghana Enterprises Agency as the General Manager for the Greater Accra region. And then Professor is the head of department for head of the UGBS Department of Finance. And of course, we'll be saying a lot about her because she is the first to be PhD holder in finance at the university. First female professor of finance at the University of Ghana in the 75 years history of the university. So you can imagine the kind of people we have here to teach you, to educate all of us on how we can start from, or how we can go from ideas to startups. What do we need to know? What steps do we have to take, and all of that? So take a pen, take a book, and then start writing something down, because you would need it. And call a friend to call another friend. Welcome, and ladies.
Thank you.
Happy International Women's Day.
Thank you.
Because we are now meeting in March. I mean, it's just right that we give that as well. And then Happy Heritage Month. We are all in African prints.
Exactly. Yes. The Ghana month.
Yes,
exactly.
Ghana month.
Very important.
We are promoting Ghanaian culture and all of that. Yeah. So I mean, it's good to have you here to talk about something like this, because sometimes, like I was mentioning, you don't know where to start from. You don't even know what is an idea, what is a business idea, and what is just one of those ideas passing by. And so we'll explore all of those, and then would like to know some of the challenges that people would even have to expect in the course of transitioning from idea stage to the startup stage. And what do we need to anticipate so that you don't get there and then you have some cultural shock and you want to go back immediately. We want to avoid all of those, and that is why we are here. So let me start with you. Ghana Enterprises Agency, Madam Antia Main. What would you say in the area that you find yourself, and maybe because it's International Women's Day, we'll talk a little. How are women faring in your spaces, and what can you say just briefly? Then we delve into the other issues.
Okay, so in the micro, small, medium enterprises space, women are actually doing very well. Women, by statistics, take about 75% of ownership of businesses. So women-led, women-owned businesses are dominant. Some are doing very well, but a percentage of them are just doing well. So let's say about 20%. So the majority are struggling to come up, bring up their businesses and to survive, just because we are not managing well as women. We are just not keeping the proper records that we need. We are not exhibiting the managerial skills that we need. And so, yes, some have soared very high and are doing extremely wonderful. And others too are crawling. But it's to be expected.
That is why we are here at the clinic.
Exactly.
we'll treat all of them.
Exactly. We have to treat all of them.
Thank you so much. In fact, that's good to know that women are there and some are doing well, but of course some are struggling. So there's definitely a way to find how we can help those people to also come up, because you can't just glory in the few that have succeeded and then leave the others behind. The Sustainable Development Goals is saying leaving no one behind. So we always have to remember that and then move forward. Prof, how are women doing in your space, academia?
Well,
a lot of brains.
We are making some phenomenal breaks, especially in the past few years. So if you take University of Ghana, for example, the chancellor is female, the vice chancellor is female, the chair of our council is female, so that's the former Chief Justice Sofa Kufu, and then our registrar is female. In fact, we just, should I say, we had our immediate past finance director being female. So when it comes to the women, I think for Eugene, the women have taken over the reins for now. So yes, we are making some breaks.
We should be tapping our fingers for this.
We should clap for ourselves.
That at least we are getting somewhere. We are not just making noise or just shouting, but our voices are being heard and we are amplifying properly. And that's some good thing to hear. So please, if you're watching us and you're female, know that it is possible to also make it. Not that kind of it is possible, I mean. Yes. So getting into the conversation, and we are talking from ideas to startups, what we have to know and what we need to do. Let me start with Madam Main. For you, how do you even start to identify what an idea is? What idea would you classify as a business idea or something that you can thrive on, build on, and all of that?
Okay, so ideas are everywhere. As we walk, we see ideas, we hear ideas, we talk ideas.
We dream ideas.
We dream ideas. And so ideas is just part of life. So you can just see a baby lying down. And then you ask yourself, what are the needs of this baby? So the baby needs pampers, the baby needs clothing, the baby needs feeding bottle, a whole lot. So you ask yourself, amongst all these, what is not easy for us to get? What is too difficult for us to get? What is too expensive about this baby that I can do that will make it cheaper for people? What about this baby is there that is not there that people want? So all these things you can ask yourself, and then you are generating a business idea or you are generating a potential business idea. You can just enter a room and then you ask yourself, what is it that this room might need as a touch, as an add-on that is not available here? So if you identify that, it becomes a potential business idea for you. But when you identify it, you need to ask yourself a lot of questions. So that is just an idea. But you need to identify a business opportunity in that idea that you have before you can progress with it.
I think we'll come to how you would even identify and then how you progress with it. I didn't know it was that you see something, ask questions. What would this thing need?
Exactly.
Like, I didn't know idea generation can be that That's interesting to know already. Prof, for you, how is it for people to even ask themselves these questions, that finding some opportunities around the things that you already see?
I think that ease of, curiosity comes when, like I put it right, you have a curious mind. So a curious mind doesn't take things as is, but is always looking for the what is behind it, what drives it. And so that curious mindset is what will really trigger, because it's a curious mindset, of course, that would lead someone to see a baby, for example, and say, what does that baby need? And that is what then will trigger, okay, the baby needs this. Is it that easy to come by? If it's easy to come by, then maybe it may not be something you get into. But if it's something that would make a problem go away. So usually it also comes from the idea of looking to solve a problem. So where there's a problem, there's a possibility of an idea that can be translated into something. So that's one way to go about it.
That's very interesting to also know. And I would like us to talk about some of the things, even though you've mentioned some of the examples, like you see a baby, you see maybe a bottle, what around it can you talk about? But how do people start? Is it just maybe walking and then you pause and think about stuff? Like what's the stage like from you generating an idea? What do you have to see? Like she mentioned that just a normal idea is different from a business idea. So at what points would you start saying that, okay, this is getting to a business part of the thing before it comes?
Okay. So normally, if you're seeking to solve a problem, what makes it a business idea is if it can be solved at a profit. Actually, we go into business to make profit. So if you cannot solve the business at a profit, you may want to revisit the whole concept. And how do you do that? You normally will start by looking around. So sometimes one of the easiest places to start looking for ideas could come from our everyday needs: food, shelter, clothing. So people would have to eat. Okay, what are the challenges to people getting their food to their table? Some are too busy. They wouldn't mind a courier service. Some are actually too busy to cook. They wouldn't mind an in-house chef. Some are also too busy to cook, but they're not even home to accommodate you coming in to cook. They'd rather you cook and deliver. And so that's where ideas. So first and foremost, you're looking to solve a problem. And in solving that problem, make sure that you must be able to solve it with a profit agenda. If it cannot be solved with profit in mind, like I said, you need to take a second look at that. So those are the first defining principles.
Then you need to think more.
Exactly.
Okay, so for you in the field that you are in, the Ghana Enterprises Agency, what is there any process that when you have to generate an idea, you'd have to follow?
Okay, so it's not like a cut in stone process, but you need to ask questions.
Okay.
To be able to start a business successfully, it's all about questions. So you ask yourself, what I have identified, can I make it?
Okay.
Do I have the skill and knowledge, or I need to bring in people to do it for me? What kind of raw materials do I need? Where will I get them? All these questions you need to ask. What kind of machinery? If it's a product I'm going to manufacture, if it's a service, what are the needs? Do I have the money to start this? How much will it cost me? And then you ask yourself again, can I sell this?
Okay.
If you can sell, who am I selling to? Do the people have the purchasing power? Do I have a marketing strategy? Or how can I sell this in a unique way that people will be attracted to it? And then you ask yourself again, am I very passionate about this? Because if you have an idea and you are not passionate about it or like it, you can't sustain it. So you must ask yourself a series of questions.
Okay.
And in the question, answering the questions, then you know whether I have to drop this idea and go for the other one, or I can still stick to this idea.
Okay.
So it's not like a process, but the questions that you ask yourself that will make a way for you.
So in your field where you have a lot of businesses that you're kind of overseeing, I don't know if I'm putting it rightly, but you're dealing with micro and small, medium
enterprises.
What are some of the experiences of the people, the kind of businesses that come to you and that you register?
Okay.
Yeah.
So now I see that the youth especially are adding value to what exists. And that is what normally you cannot bring in something entirely new. So what you see people do are adding value. So you see that a tie that is no more being used will be used for a furniture like this. And then you would see that people are using maybe a local fabric now to bring up a baby clothing instead of we going for the foreign ones. You will see very creative ideas coming up.
Okay.
So they just add value to what is existing. You
That's
see some phone cases in local fabrics, and a whole lot of interesting things are coming up. But what I can say is we are adding value to what exists.
Thank you very much. Adding value to what exists, and that is where the innovation comes up. It is still Entrepreneurship Clinic live on PCG TV, and so you can join us. Call a friend to call another friend as we talk about from ideas to startups. What do you need to know? When do you think you can move on with an idea? How do you tell if this is a business idea you have identified, or it is just one of those passing ideas that is not a business worthy idea? And we are having this conversation with Madam Anthea Main, who is the general manager or the manager for the Greater Accra Region Ghana Enterprises Agency, and Professor Vera Fiado, who is also the department head of finance at the University of Ghana Business School. We are going for a short break, and we will be right back to continue the conversation. Stay with us. Most welcome back to PCG TV. In Thy Light There Is Light, and this is the Entrepreneurship Clinic, the March edition, where we are talking about from ideas to startups. What do you need to know? How do you transition from ideas to businesses or from ideas to startups? And we'll even explore how different these are. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, do well to drop them at our interactive social media platforms. On YouTube, we are there, PCG TV, also Pressed, on Facebook. You can reach us with any comments, any experiences that you have to share. And this is brought to you by the Department for Development and Social Services of the Presbyterian Church of Ghana in collaboration with the PCG TV, and we are sponsored by the Salem range of products and Salem Water. And so do well to get any of these products and any Presbyterian institutions, or just at the head office, you can get any of them to even start a trade for yourself. It's very important to do that. And we are having the conversation with Madam Anthea Main, who is manager for the Greater Accra Region Ghana Enterprises Agency, and Professor Vera Fiado, who is the head of Department of Finance for the University of Ghana Business School. And we are talking from ideas to startups. I think that we already started with how you can even identify some of the ideas, what becomes an idea that is business worthy that you can move with. And we left off talking about some of the ideas and people have generated, and then what they are doing with it. And so let me come to you, Prof. And we are talking knowing what a business worthy idea is. At what points can you validate that this is something I can move on with? At what points do you tell that, yes, I can work with this?
Okay. So like she rightly said, you need to ask a lot of questions. First and foremost, is it doable? And this doability comes from so many different angles. First, you could look at, okay, do you have technology that can support what you're looking for? Maybe it's not something that is very technologically intense, so you could. In some other cases, you want to find out, is it even legal? Because there's some ideas you get that are not legal. So you want to check whether it's legally feasible. And we, of course, with that legally feasible element comes the fact that there may be permits and things you would have to get. Are those something you could actually get around to? So when you talked about the feasibility of whether can it be done, given the current resources that you may have, then you move, so including financial feasibility. So it means that you need to start costing. Of course, from the biblical standpoint, you could even start looking at a verse like Luke 14, 28, 29. Who wants to build a fortress and does not first cease to count the cost? And so the question is, can you do it? So financially, technologically, legally, it's there. Can you do it? Now, once you believe that it can be done, the next question is it even viable?
Okay.
So viability means that you need to find out whether there is demand. Now, there's evidence to show that most businesses collapse because there isn't adequate demand for the services or the products they produce. So yes, you are a lover of, let's say, very hot pepper with fried cassava. Now, whilst cassava is a very popular, staple food in Ghana, typically for the fried version, it's not really that known.
Yeah.
But in other jurisdictions, it is a delicacy. And so if you have not ascertained demand and you see it somewhere, or you may have grown up liking it and you love it so much, it doesn't immediately translate into business idea. You may want to find out, is the market ready for something like this?
Okay.
How many people are likely to buy? Is this something that only your family members will fall in love with? And of course, if you're going into business, about your family members. So asking the right questions to ensure that it is both feasible, doable, and then it is viable. Once you begin to address those questions and they all check the boxes, then of course, maybe it's time to start looking at the possibility of even prototyping. In some cases, it means doing a test case. If it's a product, you want to do one in the most simplest form that is valid. So I actually use the double more of tautology to give that you are looking for the simplest version that you can prototype to test the market to see whether it is something that will get out there. And in terms of the market research that sometimes goes into that, it could mean speaking to a lot of other people to be able to determine, for example, one, whether they like it in terms of the features you may be providing. Two, are they ready and willing to pay for it? So yes, you've come up with a unique kind of bread that maybe reduces cholesterol. Depending on what it is, it may cost so much to produce, but people may not be willing to pay for you to recover the cost. That immediately takes away the viability. So though it is feasible, it is not necessarily viable. And in some cases, and that means you need to go out there and begin to engage the potential customers. It could be something as simple as getting to, let's say, any of the malls with heavy traffic, having a very small sample, and then having people, it's cut up in pieces, and maybe they're even using toothpicks to sample and say, okay, it's tasty. Okay, for a size like this, this is what it does, this is what it can do. How much will you pay for it? Now, by the time you sampled quite a number of people and you've taken down the data, and that's where data is the new oil, you must mine it to make decisions. You would come to realize that, okay, of the, let's say, 200 people you sampled, only 10 of them were ready to consider buying something like that. Now, it doesn't stop there. It means that you need to go back and ask yourself, okay, you sampled 200. Now, if you were to relate that 200 or overlay it on the size of the market that is capable, so you see we are like 38 million. But of the 38 million, about 18 of them will not necessarily fall in the markets. Either they are too young or maybe they've already crossed whichever barrier. So you're left with, let's say, 20 million. Of the 20 million, only what? So let's say if you're using our 200, only 5 of them. So we didn't even get 10%. We actually got like what? 2.5%. So that means of the 20 million, your largest size is 2.5% of a market of 20 million. That immediately takes you into a very small size. Then that will take you back. How much do you need to set up? Does the size of the market justify that? So sometimes you have a very brilliant idea, but immediately the size of the market may not justify it, or it will lead you to ask further questions of how to provide that service, but not run the kind of cost. So you want to do chocolate, whatnot. Then you go and buy a machine that produces what, 1 million pieces a day. You're in the wrong market. That kind of machine used to be in China, not in Ghana. Yes, because they have 1.7 billion people. So even if 10% would participate in your market, you're talking what, 170 million potential buyers. Now, when you come to Ghana, you want to do 10% of the population, 3.8 million. Can you compare 3.8 million people and 170 million people? That's a world of difference. And so those are some of the issues that will really transition you from just thinking
Yeah.
to something that you may want to actually now try out.
Very comprehensive one over there, and a lot to take from it. Knowing that even if it is viable, you should know whether it is something that people would want to pay for before you run. I'm at a loss actually, so that you don't start and then you end up struggling because yes, you want to do it. People like it, but they are not paying for it. Would you do it for free? Then it becomes an NGO. So I mean, yes, but again on the so you spoke about what is idea worthy, business idea worthy, transitioning.
Yes.
What's the first step? That you mentioned some of the things from the ideation
Yes.
part of it, but the first step to say that I am setting up myself.
Yes. So once you have confirmed that this is both feasible and viable, and that's where you begin to start scoping the market.
Okay.
You try to get a good understanding of the market so you know where to start. Now, of course, setup could be on a very small scale. Now, one of the key things also you need to keep in mind is the fact that in determining the viability and feasibility, one of the elements is also scalability, meaning that I can start small today, but there's possibility of what? Growing to become much, much bigger. If it doesn't have that opportunity, so yes, we can start small. So you can think big,
Okay.
but you're starting quite small. And that means you begin to roll out the service by setting up. Of course, the setup could be even from your home.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to go get an office space. And no, you could set up straight from home. I could share the interesting experience when I set up my first consultancy, and I was from home. And we happen to live in an area that is not yet mapped. So I get to the Registrar General's there now, Office of the Registrar, and then of companies, and then I fill in the details. So I've left the place with the address blank, and then the officer goes like, address. I said, what's the street or the name of the street? I said, we don't have a name on the street. How about the house? I said, oh, say, the street hasn't been named. How much more the
house?
The gentleman just picked up the pen, unnamed street, unnumbered house, old Ashoma, stamped it, we are good. And that's how simple it can be for some, if it's not mainstream manufacturing. But of course, if it happens to be mainstream manufacturing, part of the feasibility is the fact that you need to be able to set up the factory space that will meet appropriate standards. And so that might require some kind of money. And that is where the financial feasibility comes in. Have you prepped the kind of money that is needed? Prepping it means really sitting down and going back to the text I gave.
Okay.
You count the cost. We need to get this machine. When it comes in, it needs to be set up. When it is set up, it needs this volume to be able to run. It needs that everything is costed properly. And now once you do that, because it will take a number of months, sometimes a year, 2, depending on the nature of business, for you to churn a profit, what matters is that we have to look at what we like to call the runway.
Okay.
Because sometimes you recruit people. If you found the right people, you recruit them. Profit is not coming in yet. Sometimes even sales may not be coming in for a while, even as you are trying to market and get people to really take up the product. But what it means is that every month, for example, even if you have 10 workers, or even as 3 workers, you are paying them no more than 1,000 cedis per head. That comes down to a minimum of about 3,000 per head. Now, if you've done your financials properly, which would have told you the feasibility and the viability, you would know that, okay, I'm going to start churning profits maybe a year down the lane. Meaning that for the first 12 months, you're literally going to be zero. You won't make much to pay any set of bills. So if you need 3,000 a month to pay your workers, for the first 12 months when you will not really be making any real deal, then it means you need your 36,000 somewhere. How about your electricity bill? You pay that. How about your water bill? So once you put that together, we like to call that the runway.
Okay.
Because you need to have it ready. See, like the runway for the plane. If you don't have the right runway, you will not take off. Because it needs the right runway, the length is good enough, then it would speed up and then it shoots into the sky. If your runway finishes before you have gathered enough steam, you know what will happen. You have a massive plane crash.
I mean, we'll come back to talk more about even the differences or the kind of differences in if it's a product-based service, if it's a product-based idea you have, or if it is a service-based idea, and how you can transition from that ideation stage to real startup, because she sets the pace on all the things that you can do to set off or to start off with the idea. This is Entrepreneurship Clinic on PCG TV. In Thy Light There Is Light, and this is the March edition talking about from ideas to startups. What do you need to know? When can you start a business so that it is moving from your ideas and not just staying with the idea, but you are able to do something with it, so you can also be that entrepreneur that you dream of becoming. This is brought to you by the Department for Development and Social Services of the Presbyterian Church of Ghana in collaboration with PCG TV, and it is sponsored by the Salem range of products and Salem Water. We are right back in a few minutes. Welcome back to Entrepreneurship Clinic, the March edition, as we're talking about from ideas to startups. What do you need to know? How do you get started with all the ideas that you have? And this is brought to you by Development and Social Services Departments of the Presbyterian Church of Ghana in collaboration with PCG TV, and sponsored by Salem Water and the Salem range of products. And we are having the conversation here with Professor Vera Fiado, who is the head of Department of Finance for the University of Ghana Business School, and Madam Anthea Main, who is also the manager for Greater Accra Region Ghana Enterprises Agency. And we've been talking a lot about what an idea with a business idea is about, and then how you can even start to identify the ideas so that you can think of starting a business for yourself, and some of the things that you need to put in place so that you have a smooth takeoff and not just take off and then you crash. I mean, that's something that we don't want to hear. That is why we are here on the Entrepreneurship Clinic, so that we can treat you to some very successful tips. So this is the right place to be. If you haven't invited someone to be watching us, kindly do so, or share the link to someone to also join in the conversation. Let me come to Madam Anthea Main. For you in the Ghana Enterprises Agency, doing a lot of businesses and managing a lot of enterprises or overseeing them, what are some of the differences when it comes to transitioning from the idea stage to starting your business? What are some of the differences in if it's a product-based idea you're having or a service-based idea?
Okay, so there isn't much difference.
Okay.
It's almost the same thing. You need to formalize your business. And in the formalization, you have to register with RGG. If it's a product, then you may need the GSA, you need the FDA, you need the EPA if it concerns you. And then when it comes to taxes, we are all, whether service or product, we all go to GRA. So we should know the kind of taxes that we have to pay. If it's something that we are going to export, then we have to go to Ghana Export Promotion Authority. And so they are almost the same. It's just that maybe the service I render may require some few other certifications that I need, or the products that I am producing will need further requirements. But the formalization process in Ghana, it's the same for whether it's a service or a product.
But in the space where you find yourself, which one kind of dominates?
Okay, so Ghanaians are doing well with production.
Okay.
Everybody wants to produce, so some are doing sandals, they are in the leather workspace. Some are doing clothing, some are doing actual production like the shit or the cereals, the water. So production is dominant, but the service industry is also picking up.
Okay.
Picking up because of, you know, now we are going digital, so the IT space is also growing very fast.
Yeah, I was reading this, and it was talking about the fact that you have 1 out of 10 ideas. So if you have 10 ideas, only one gets to start their businesses, and the other 9 just go waste. So I was just thinking, why 10 ideas out of all of this plenty? Only
so
what is the
don't go waste.
Okay.
The 9 can be revisited. Maybe the timing was not right for the 9. The environment was not right for the 9. But immediately you move, you see that one of the other 9 may be feasible to start. So the 9 doesn't go waste. Just that the timing, the environment, the resources may not be right at the appropriate. given time that we are talking about, that idea. So we can always revisit the ideas. They don't go waste.
Okay, but I just wanted to even ask, I don't know who will take that, but is there any process for you to kind of even validate an idea? Is there any agency, any organization or institution that does that so that young people can visit? I don't know if the business
so Ghana Enterprises Agency, in our business advisory centers, we have business advisors who can coach and mentor you right from the idea stage to the start, and even handhold you till you survive.
Okay.
So there are institutions like that.
Okay.
We have other private business development service providers who are equally doing this. We have the hubs, and we have individuals who want to support young entrepreneurs to grow their businesses.
Okay, I think that's interesting to hear. Yeah, Prof. Any additions on that?
Well, it's the same story. Actually, when it comes to business advisory, which is what helps more with the hand-holding. So, for example, with the University of Ghana Business School, even in-house, they have what they call the UGBS Nest. It's an incubation point. So you come in, you have the idea, they'll walk you through. If it means helping you to get the relevant certification, even they do that. And like you said, they are individuals. So even within us, setup, myself and others, within that space, you get support. Okay. So I can even give you an example where sometime I had an opportunity to speak at the Chamber of Commerce, and then this elderly person walks to me. And of course, in engaging immediately, we realized that she was actually selling below cost, meaning that every sale she made was actually an unprofitable sale. And so those are the avenues where by engaging some, the truth be told, they are the Calvin Kleins within the space, the big shots who can charge an arm and a leg. But so we'll say in this case, monkeys play by sizes. So you look for the places. Academia provides also a very safe haven in terms of the charges, because it's more of adding knowledge. And a sector, her unit is also one of, because it's set up to provide. So most of the time, even if there's going to be a charge, it's token, and most of the time they also help to subsidize. So that's another very good area to get support to move and carry on.
Interesting. It's virtually free.
That's what I'm saying. That's even if there is any token, that's why they normally subsidize everything. So half of the time, you don't really pay much. What they would rather want from you is that you take the advice and use it. Half of the time, I think sometimes people take it and they don't really take it seriously, which I don't think.
But have we been able to find out why?
Oh, you know, people are like that. People think that, oh, this thing that the business advisor said, it won't work for me.
Or it's too difficult.
Or it's too theoretical. So let me do it my own way. Only for them to realize that, oh, it was not theoretical after all, if I had listened. So they go back to what the business advisor says, and it works for them.
When reality hits them, then.
When reality hits them, that's the unfortunate part. That's it.
That's can we talk about some of the challenges that people have to, anticipate in moving from idea stage to the startup part of it? Are there any challenges that we can talk about so people are aware and it's not a smooth sail?
Like my sister said, people are so energized, enthusiastic when they want to start a business. They've identified a wonderful idea. But when they start, now the reality starts hitting them. I didn't cost properly. I'm not getting people to buy my product. Then, the energy starts dying. So you need to psych people that, yes, you have a business plan. You have asked all the questions, everything that they said ask questions. So even I've asked experts about the business. But I have started and I'm almost about failing. So you psych yourself that the starting crisis does not mean you should fold up. Expect the starting crisis. Because you are new in the environment, you may not have the experience, you may not have the right managerial skills, you may not have done one or two things right. And so you need to actually gather yourself, go for more training, read more. Go out there and seek what the issues are, what are the challenges, and then you come back and address it, and then restart the business. So you don't collapse or fold up because of the starting crisis. So we now want to cite people that immediately you start a business, if you are lucky, it's just one of few people who don't get the starting crisis. But if you get the starting crisis, it's normal. Just seek help from the experts.
Prof, challenges.
Yeah, so the challenges, I like to put it in what I like to call an acronym for some trainings I've done. I like to call it SPEC. Some don't even have a strategy. So they have an idea, but the strategy is how you're going to get it done. So the strategy is moving from, so this is where I am, this is where I want to get to. And that really means that have a whole blueprint about what you want to do. Most of the time we don't like to write. And you see, so without the writing, I can reframe it in a very interesting statement I came across years ago. It's like driving on a one-way street in the wrong direction in foggy weather with your lights turned off.
So risky.
It is not if you will have an accident. It's only a matter of when you will have the accident. And because you're driving at top speed and you don't have any information, you're likely to crash and bad. So yes, it comes first and foremost strategy. What's the blueprint you have? Is it written so that occasionally you can even come back and check whether you're on track? It also can be an issue of people challenges. That's another area that sometimes we somehow have taken for granted and we gloss over. We have been in business and we face both. First from the competence, also to even integrity of the workforce and whatnot. So those can be real challenges. You start up and then someone thinks that you're making good money, and so they decide that they can take small off there. And so you need to bear in mind that these are risks that you could face. And so you begin immediately to start, in essence, anticipating them, which means that you need to start putting a lot of controls in place, systems and checks that will ensure that your money doesn't go to waste. The next issue is execution. How are you really rolling out the whole thing? Do you have a plan as to, one, this is how we operate with, let's say, for customers. What's our core value? What's our whole framework for putting the strategy we have into action? So the execution is more of your strategy into action. Because yes, I want to move from Accra to Tamale. Will it be by walking? Of course, if my goal is to become a celebrity, that would be the best. Or then maybe I want to achieve some other thing. I want to do bicycle or motorbike. Or I could actually want to, I need to save on costs. Then I'm going to do public transport. I want to drive in luxury. I could rent a 4-wheel. But if I want to do a pa, meaning that I have a job here and whatnot, I fly to Tamale and by evening I'm back and nobody knows I left Accra. All of these, so these execution plans will be determined by a host of factors. And then the final thing that most people forget, which comes up so many times, cash flow. Now, businesses collapse not because the idea itself is bad, not even because the execution is bad. In fact, they're doing an excellent job of everything except financial management is a problem. And so when it comes to that area, it's something that you can learn skills like finance for non-finance managers if you're not a pure finance person like myself, so that you have the basic skills. For example, in managing your cash, do you know how many goods you should be, or units of production you should meet up to be able to meet your minimum cost elements? Or are you producing below what should be your target? And when you're giving credit, for example, are you giving credit and allowing people to pay when they feel like paying? You might soon end up having borrowed from the bank and you've been out credits to your customers. Your bank is chasing you and you don't have money to pay. That is when you collapse, not because the business itself is not good, but because your management of cash and by extension your financial management is a bit porous. And those are the things that can.
But is there any that is like dominant amongst businesses in this country?
The cash aspect.
Thank you. The financial management
the cash aspect.
Then it means that we have a lot of work to do in that area for people to realize that. So those were some challenges that we talked about in regards to moving from idea stage to your startup stages and what you need to know. You need to have a financial management and plan as well, and be literate in that aspect so that you are not so lost in the woods when it comes to managing those finances, because you are working for the money. All the ideas that are coming up, it is for the money, the profit that you want to make, and not just to do something for the sake of it. So it's important that you are here with us. It is still Entrepreneurship Clinic on PCG TV, and we are talking from ideas to startup. What do you need to know? When can you transition? And what are the processes involved? And it is brought to you by Development and Social Services Department of the Presbyterian Church of Ghana in collaboration with PCG TV. We are sponsored by Salem Water and Salem range of products. We are going for a break. We will be right back. It's the Entrepreneurship Clinic on PCG TV. In Thy Light, there is light. And we are talking about from ideas to startups. What do you need to know? What can you do so that you have a successful transition from your ideas into your startups, and then you don't get to start and then you fail? That is not what we want. We want you to make the profit and be able to give back to your society, and to also be the kind of entrepreneur that people can look up to. And this is brought to you by the Department for Development and Social Services of the Presbyterian Church of Ghana in collaboration with PCG TV, and it is sponsored by Salem Water and the Salem range of products. You can get your cereal mix, you can get your body lotion, your shea butter, and then your hair foods from the head office or any other Presbyterian institution that is closer to you. You can share your comments, your experiences, and if you have any questions, do well to share them. We will address them eventually. And so do join us anywhere on social media, PCG TV, on Facebook, on YouTube, and also Pressed on Facebook. You can join us there with any of the comments, your messages, and all that you have. We are having the conversation with seasoned experts in the studio, in the persons of Madam Ansia Ohini Main, who is the manager for Ghana Enterprises Agency, Greater Accra Region. And then we have Professor Vera Fiado, who is also Associate Professor of Finance and Head of Departments of Finance at the University of Ghana Business School. And we've been having a lot of conversation, a lot of very good tips. I hope you are taking notes of them, because it will help you. If you don't write, you end up forgetting, and then you do the very things you are not supposed to do. And so do well to put something down for the future, very near future. It's very important. We left off talking about some of the challenges that people encounter moving from ideas to startups. And now, can we talk about some of the things that they have to do? So by way of best practices and even identifying opportunities in those challenges that you face. Maybe we can start with Prof.
Okay.
When it comes to.
So one way to work around, in this case, being more proactive as opposed to being reactive to the challenges would be to do what we like to call it like a health check.
Okay.
So sometimes you could call that an organizational review. Once you start the business, it could be every 6 months. You have a checklist as to the kinds of things that are known to be done by successful businesses. So that means that, like even in normal life where you may want to have a role model. Okay. For a small business, you want to identify a business that you want to be like someday. Mm-hmm. And you begin to follow them. You want to study what they do. And out of that, generate some kind of benchmarking framework that you want to check by. And so that's one way where you begin to put down things that you may want to follow through and get done. Another one is also to keep your financials. Very, very, very critical. I like to say that your financial statements, when done properly, it's more like your blood. Your blood is a collection of all the foods you eat, both good, bad, ugly. It shows up. And so when you do get your financials captured properly, it's like taking your blood sample to the lab.
Okay.
When you look at your lab report, you only see values. And you only see sometimes an H and an L. It's just high and it's low. But the doctor who understands can tell you that you're knocking on the door of Awudome Cemetery easily. It's the same thing when it comes to a business. If you keep your financial records properly, and every data, like I said, data is the new oil. You keep it well, we can easily look into and tell you that, this aspect of the business is struggling. Take a critical look at it. When I look at your financials, I think where you are sourcing from is eating up all your profits. Mm-hmm. You want to take a look at that. I look at your finances, I can say that, it looks like you have more workers than you should, given the size of your business. oh, I think you're spending too much in this area. Okay, it doesn't look like you have enough demand. So it's a host of information that can be gleaned from that kind of. So organizational review, both on the operational side to look at how things go. Sometimes something as simple as an HR perspective could even show that your workers come to work and all they do is to spend their time on social media. How do you do that? And so those are things. Sometimes you could even decide occasionally to do your own assessment of customer insights. Do your customers actually like the service you're providing? And if so, what would they like you to start, stop, or continue doing?
Okay.
Those are simple and easy ways to get around the possibility of at least minimizing the challenges. And in the process, sometimes you actually can identify new business opportunities that emerge from engaging within some of these frameworks. Okay. So that's what I can say for
okay,
now.
Madam.
Okay, so to add to it, she mentioned customers. Just as the finance is the blood, customers, they do everything. They bring us even the money. And so you need to make sure that you are providing quality products and services to your people. You take feedback from your customers and then make sure that you are pricing well. What you are selling to them, are you selling at the right price to them? Is it too high, too low? You need to get all these facts correct, because if you don't have the customers, then you don't have a business.
Okay.
And aside that, you also need to go out there and fish out the innovative things about your business. Because if you stay stale, then you can't survive. You have to move from being stale and add on. So whatever you are doing, you need to diversify and then add value where it's necessary, because now people are craving for new things. So innovativeness and creativity should be the order of the day for your business.
So, sometimes people start businesses and then you hear that, I don't know if it came up here, but like do the things for free when you start so that moving on you can be getting your profit.
She said that you need to test the market.
Yeah.
So maybe testing the market, that can be free. But when the business starts, you are not, yes.
Free. So for how long can you say that for the kind of things that you do in the enterprises, what period can you say you can use this? Is there any standard?
Oh, so you can use a week, you can use just some few days. We don't have a prescribed time for you to test the market, depending on what you do.
Okay.
Then you can define the period that you want to test the market.
Okay, so maybe let's go back to we didn't really talk about like the different types of startups or the different types of ideas that people have, but you mentioned the issues of technology, but there's another, and the social startups, and those people are not, I don't know if they are profit making or they are for
social enterprises.
So they are social enterprises.
Yeah,
those are blends. It's a blend of both profit seeking but with a social intent.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they don't seek so much of a high profit because part of their focus is to be more. So it's like a marriage between an NGO and a typical for profit. And so they do, in fact, even for the typical NGO we just say it is not for profit. It doesn't mean it's loss making. When we say for profit, it is profiting for the individuals who set up the facility. But a not for profit is supposed to make surpluses. Meaning that whatever it is you are spending, you are getting more than what you are spending, so that there's always a surplus for you to build up, even what we like to call reserves. So in a for-profit entity, the money comes to you, the owner, and you can blow it by taking your family on a vacation to maybe Santorini. In a not-for-profit, it's literally illegal, unethical to do that. When you do a not-for-profit, the money comes in as surplus. So we change the name in the accounting parlance to surplus. Its job is to help you expand on the social intervention you're undertaking. So any NGO that does differently is then asking for, that's why they get the tax waivers to support in government's, let's say, rendition of services. When you do a pure for profit, then it's for you and your family and your descendants. Social enterprise is trying to marry the two, so that you don't seek excessive profits, but neither are you, and there's likely to be the trends that may grow with time, even as we seek sustainable development goals and etc.
But are those dominants currently?
It's not emerging. It's more of an emerging area, because people have been mostly on the two extremes. Either it's a pure NGO that doesn't do anything to generate income, or it's a pure profit entity. Now they are trying to marry the two. So over the years, I think for the past decade or so, it's been an area that is growing and is likely to stay.
Okay. So, yeah. That's interesting to know, and I believe that young people can take advantage of some of those sectors so that in their ideas generation they can come up with that, because they're also looking at how we can address challenges, not just make the profit and then things go bad, or venture into a business that destroys our environment and all of that. We should be very particular about all of those. And so before we leave here, just to I don't know if there are any experiences that you want to share from your point of view managing the Ghana Enterprises Agency, any experiences that you would use to advise other upcoming entrepreneurs.
Okay. Yeah. So it looks as if we are being overambitious. Yes, we have to be creative and innovative, but we shouldn't be too, we shouldn't step the bounds, because you go start and then you come back crying that my business didn't survive. So we want you to be innovative and creative and be an entrepreneur. We want you to have that entrepreneurial spirit, build your entrepreneurial skills, and then make sure that you are well prepared for a business before you start it. It's not that, me try BB keke. Some try keke, and yes, they are able to make the profits and survive. But some too will start, most people will start and fail because they didn't do the right things. So do the right things, prepare yourself well, and then get started on a good note.
Okay, Prof.
I can relate that to a story. What she said too, we had a chance as a business school once to engage with the global network of advanced management schools, and we had to visit an Indian company. In fact, it's actually an Indian hospital. And we're surprised to find that for surgeries that could cost $50,000, $60,000 in the US, this hospital was doing it for close to $10,000, $12,000. So we're curious. And then he jokingly said that when you have money in your bank account, your brain stops working. Giving reason to or meaning to the adage that necessity is the mother of invention. That, like she rightly said, you don't just start big. Think big, but you can start small so that you scale slowly. Sometimes we start on a scale that is just too large for anybody to manage in the early stages. You are now learning the terrain. You are now understanding the market.